All right, let's step into a place that feels, well, unmade. It's a strange, dark, and kind of abstract space, and it's filled with these disembodied voices. You could almost think of them as echoes of a life that was lived, or maybe just imagined. This is our journey into the virtual abyss.
And this line right here, this is our entry point. Words is all I have. It's like a single thread of connection in this huge empty darkness, and it's spoken by a being we're going to meet a little later. For now, though, let's just hold on to that thought as we start to explore this bizarre reality.
So, as we navigate this kind of dreamlike realm, our first encounter is with this figure who's questioning the very idea of achievement. This voice, it sounds like it's coming from some forgotten myth, and it's wondering if any of its big heroic deeds ever really mattered at all. So first up, we meet the tiger archer. It's this creature that's part myth, but wrestling with some very real anxieties. It talks about roaming ancient plains and facing what it calls episodic dragons. But from here, in this void, it's starting to question if any of that actually added up to real progress. And this is the archer's central haunting question. I mean, what's the real value of slaying all these episodic dragons if you, the person doing the fighting, remain completely unchanged? It's a pretty profound challenge to how we usually think about success. So the archer draws this really crucial line in the sand here. An illusion, it can be fragile, maybe even a little dangerous, but it can also offer some comfort when there's nothing else. A rut, on the other hand, that's a paralyzing void. It's a black hole that just sucks all the life right out of you. So in this abyss, maybe even a flimsy illusion is better than that. Okay, so we've talked about pointless achievement. Now let's pivot to something even darker. Pointless motivation. We're about to meet a warrior whose entire life was a quest for something that, in the end, meant absolutely nothing. And that brings us to our next archetype, the frog warrior. This is a being totally shaped by a single-minded focus on revenge. The problem is, now they're adrift in this place where there's no conflict, no way to act. And that purpose? It's just evaporated. You can really hear the regret in the warrior's voice, can't you? The pursuit was so all-consuming that life itself just got left behind. It's a pretty stark reminder of what it costs to follow a purpose that leads you nowhere. And when you break it down, the story is just so simple and so tragic. A friend is lost, a quest for vengeance begins. But it's never fulfilled. And the warrior is just left with that empty question, what use was it? It really shows how a life's biggest motivation can just completely unravel into meaninglessness. And all of this kind of begs the question, what's even real anyway? Our journey is now shifting to explore the very fabric of reality and illusion. We're going to be guided by two new voices, one from the chaotic world of dreams and the other from the clumsy world of apprentice magic. First, we meet the fantasy knight, who says they come from the land of Rem. Just picture this, a knight riding a seahorse through this void, and they're offering this surprisingly cynical, almost scientific take on what our dreams are all about.
In this chart, it lays out the knight's argument perfectly. Dreams feel incredibly important, right? But not because of some deep mystical meaning. It's just brain chemistry. You get these high levels of dopamine and glutamate that create this powerful sense of immersion, and it makes all that random chaos feel profound.
So what the knight is really saying is this. Even if dreams are nothing more than chemical noise, the illusion they create can be a necessary defense, a shield to salvage some scraps of sanity when you're up against a harsh reality. Now, compare that to our next voice. It's an elf, an apprentice witch. And their story gives us a totally different kind of illusion. Not one born inside the mind, but one created by a magical mistake that had very real, very permanent consequences. The contrast here is just stark. The knight's dream is this internal, random flicker that's gone when you wake up. The elf's curse, though, was an external act, a clumsy spell that literally froze a time continuum and made someone even more evil. One illusion is a harmless feature of the mind. The other had a catastrophic, permanent impact on reality. All right, we've arrived at our final encounter. This is with a being that doesn't act, but only observes. And in this abyss, it really feels like the abyss is looking back at us, and it's questioning the whole point of its own consciousness.
And this is the alien plasma bomb. It calls itself a mechanical eye, and its entire existence is just passive observation from its abyssal throne of despair. It's defined by watching, and by the huge limitations of the only tool it has, language.
And this right here, this is the absolute core of its despair. Subjectivity is a trap you can't escape. It means even our shared words have these private, personal meanings built from our own experiences. The way the plasma bomb sees it, we're all basically speaking slightly different languages, never ever truly connecting. And that really gets to the heart of the observer's crisis. In a hopeless realm, what is the value of just watching it all happen? What difference does it make to be a conscious observer of a tragedy that you have absolutely no power to stop?
So, after wandering through this abyss, what are we left with? It's time to try and weave together these disembodied voices, all these fragments of consciousness, and ask what we can possibly take away from it all.
Every voice we've met is basically adrift in the wreckage of a single idea. You have the archer, lost after their goal was met, the warrior, lost because theirs never was, the knight finds comfort in chemical lies, while the elf is haunted by a magical truth. And then there's the observer, who sees all of it and finds only despair. When you put them all together, these voices paint this really fractured picture of what it means to exist. Purpose isn't always some heroic quest. Sometimes it's just an empty promise. Illusion isn't just a fantasy. It can be a vital survival tool. And reality, for some of these voices, isn't a solid foundation at all, but a heavy weight that's just pulling them under.
You know, in the end, this whole journey wasn't about finding some nice, neat conclusion. It was about listening to these echoes in the dark. It was about exploring these profound questions that, frankly, might not have any clear answers. It's a space for reflection, not for resolution. And so, we end by turning the question back to you. The real tension in this abyss isn't between good and evil, it's between a comforting fiction and a painful truth. So, after hearing these voices from the edge, if reality is a weight and illusion is a shield, which one do you choose?